Welcome back to ILTV on the Hour. We're live in Israel, bringing you the biggest headlines from the region. I'm Lidar Lazi, and today is day 705 of the war in Gaza. Let's get into all the top headlines at this hour. In a stunning and unprecedented move, Israel carried out a long-range airstrike in the heart of Doha, Qatar, targeting Hamas's political leadership in what officials call Operation Summit of Fire. It remains unclear which Hamas leaders were killed or wounded in the attack. Today, new details are emerging on the historic strike. After months of secret preparation, Israeli Air Force fighter jets dropped multiple munitions on a building in Doha where top Hamas officials were gathered to discuss a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal. The strike, conducted over 1,100 miles from Israel, was approved by Israel's security cabinet but kept secret from the broader government. The operation was run from the Shin Bet's command center with Prime Minister Netanyahu, Defense Minister Katz, and Israel's security chiefs present. And while the decision to strike had been made weeks ago, Netanyahu claimed that the timing of the strike was a direct response to the Hamas terror attack in Jerusalem that killed 6 Israelis the day before. Hamas confirmed that 5 of its members were killed in Doha, including the son and aide of Khalil al-Haya, but claims its top negotiators survived. Israeli officials say they believe several senior leaders were wounded or killed and say it could take some time before the results are fully known. This operation marks the first time Israel has struck within sovereign Qatari territory and comes amid growing threats from IDF Chief of Staff Zamil, who warned last month that Hamas leaders abroad will be reached. As Israel moves to settle scores after the October 7th massacre, defense officials say this is just the beginning of a broader campaign against Hamas leaders worldwide. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu was quick to confirm the strike on Hamas leaders in Doha. In a speech at a celebration at the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem last night, Netanyahu said the surgical precision Israeli airstrike targeting the quote-unquote savage Hamas leaders in Doha can pave the way to the immediate end of the war in Gaza. Netanyahu went on to say that Israel accepted the Trump proposal to end the war, beginning with the immediate release of all the hostages. He did not explain how targeting the Hamas ceasefire talks mediators could advance an agreement. But let's hear what he had to say.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th. They perpetrated the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Now, they were meeting in the same place, exactly the same place, where they celebrated this savagery almost 2 years ago. At the beginning of the war, I promised that Israel would reach those who perpetrated this horror. And today, Israel and I have kept that promise.
And while Netanyahu praised the strike, the Trump administration is reportedly unhappy about it. After learning about the plan only shortly before, Trump reportedly directed envoy Steve Witkoff to warn Qatar that the Israeli attack was coming. Qatari officials, however, denied they were warned by Washington, and the call from Witkoff came only after the attack was underway. President Trump publicly denounced the Israeli attack, calling it unfortunate. The targeted Hamas officials were attending negotiations mediated by Qatar, with discussions on a proposed deal backed by Trump and aligned with Israel's conditions for ending the war. Let's hear now first from President Trump and then the White House spokesperson on the issue.
I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back. But we are not thrilled about the way that went down today. I'm never surprised by anything, especially when it comes to the Middle East. I would tell you this, I was very unhappy about it, very unhappy about every aspect. And we got to get the hostages back. But I was very unhappy about the way that went down.
President Trump also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu after the attack. The Prime Minister told President Trump that he wants to make peace, and quickly. President Trump believes this unfortunate incident could serve as an opportunity for peace. The president also spoke to the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar and thanked them for their support and friendship to our country. He assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil.
And meanwhile, the IDF issued the largest evacuation order yet for Gaza City as the military prepares for a full-scale invasion. Israel effectively ordered all of Gaza City to evacuate. The widespread evacuation order says all Palestinian civilians must leave the entire city immediately, ahead of a major military ground offensive. Previous warnings issued by the IDF in recent days had only included specific buildings and the area surrounding them. So I would now like to invite Ambassador Yoram Ettinger, an expert on U.S.-Israel relations, and Colonel Amit Assa, former member of the Israeli Security Agency and a security expert, to break down the events of the past 24 hours. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ambassador Ettinger, let's start with you. You know, we see Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu immediately take credit for the strike in Doha. And then after initial reports that President Trump gave the green light for the operation, we see actually President Trump distancing himself from the attack, saying, calling it unfortunate. And then he says, however, not so unfortunate that Israel targeted Hamas. So what do you make of Trump's statements? I mean, was he genuinely surprised? And do you foresee any strain on relations with Washington as a result of the strike?
Irrespective of the statements issued by the president and his very able spokeswoman, the main thing is not the talk, but the walk. And the operation here stands for another, even striking evidence to the very, very productive cooperation between Israel and the U.S. military, in this case, CENTCOM, which is the U.S. command in the Middle East, including the Persian Gulf. There's no way that Israel would carry out an assault on Qatar, where there is an American military base in an area where the U.S. Acts like a home court without prior coordination with the U.S. military. But moreover, the current cooperation between Israel, the IDF, and the U.S. military is a direct result of one of the last acts by President Trump during his first administration, January 2021, just before exiting the White House. President Trump gave the order to realign Israel with the Central Command in the Middle East and Persian Gulf, and not as it used to be in Europe. Since January 2021, because of President Trump's initiative, the degree of cooperation between the military forces of Israel and the U.S. has reached levels beyond the wildest expectations. Moreover, the president, and especially his Secretary of State, who is also the National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio, are not oblivious about the nature of Qatar. They are also very much aware of how the Emirates and Saudi Arabia really feel about Qatar, and again, independent of their talk. The Saudi walk, the United Arab Emirates walk, has been very clear. They have always acted towards Qatar as a potential enemy, as an ally of the Ayatollah regime, as an ally and major supporter, the major supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood, both of which are lethal threats to Saudi regime and to the Emiratis. The president is aware of it, and therefore, again, we should pay attention to what the president does rather than what he says.
So differentiating between talking the talk and walking the walk. Now, I want to turn to you, Colonel Assa. Now that we know a little bit more, some of the details are emerging. What can you tell us? I mean, what goes into such an operation, and what do we know so far about the targets and the success of the operation?
First, about the success of the operation, we still don't know yet what is the exact thing that we achieved there. And we will have to wait a little bit until we will have all the details from the Qatarian. But I want to make a spot on the operation itself. This kind of an operation needs two major things. First, it's the intelligence, the exact intelligence, and we will talk about it a lot. And the other is the ability, operationally, ability to move and fly all over from Israel to the place with airplanes. It took a lot of time, and to drop the exact ammunition to kill just the people that we want to kill without any other damage to people surrounding it. So if we understand that first, operationally, we need some time to bring our airplanes above the target, it's not a matter of immediate intelligence. It have to be something that we build intelligence a very long time before. So the intelligence knows for a long time what is the place, where they are gathering, what are they doing there. And now we are getting into the main issue is the timing. And the timing has to be very precise. When you are aiming this kind of a group and you want them all to be at the same place, and you have just one chance, because in Qatar, and we understand now, we will not be able to act secondly because of the political situation with the Americans. And you have just one chance to do it. Now, when you have the intelligence that they are there, it's not enough, because we said that we need the airplane to be there for hours flying. So it's a matter of intelligence from before, but in the last seconds, we need the right answer if the intelligence is precise and we have the green light to drop the bomb. So it's very complicated. It's look like we are doing it several times. We did it in Houthis area, and the government of the Houthis was damaged. We did it with the Hania in the central of Tehran. We did it to the commander on control area of Hezbollah with Nasrallah. We did it a lot of times, but still, every time it's a major thing to do. It's not something that you are doing as it is. It's a very complicated, from one hand, intelligence, and from another hand, operationally.
An incredible operation. Now, Ambassador Ettinger, you spoke before about President Trump, distinguishing between, the walk and the talk, but we have heard a lot of international condemnations from the United Nations, from Arab states, and even from European allies. So, the question on my mind is, why is the world condemning Israel for this strike and not condemning Qatar, a supposed great ally of the United States and the West, for harboring Hamas terrorists in the first place? I mean, when the United States took out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, nobody was condemning the U.S., but everyone was asking, why is Pakistan harboring terrorists? So what do you make of this?
Well, West Europe in particular, and the world at large, other than the U.S. in general, have been very consistent in aligning themselves with anti-Israel forces. And this, by the way, goes back to 1948, when there was huge pressure on Israel to end occupation of West Jerusalem and end occupation of the Western Galilee, etc. But more importantly, there has been consistency in misreading the Middle East. This is the same world that embraced Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979 when he took over control of Iran, and the world at large, by the way, at that time led by the US, considered Ayatollah Khomeini to be an Iranian edition of Gandhi, an old man who only seeks liberty and human rights. This is the same world that actually welcomed Bashar Assad in 2000, when Bashar Assad replaced his deceased father. And once again, the world took him as a potential liberal, potential moderate, because of his London background, because of his profession being an ophthalmologist and president of the Syrian Internet Association. And we know that at the end, he revealed himself to be even worse of a butcher than was his father. And certainly the world at large, and I'm embarrassed to say too many Israelis as well, embraced Arafat in 1993 as a terrorist turning pragmatist, a terrorist transforming into a peaceful leader. And once again, the world was absolutely wrong. So this is another milestone in a path of complete detachment from Middle East reality. We should not be passive about it, and there's a lot to do, but it is based on very significant ignorance of the nature of Middle East reality, and being addicted to an alternate reality, which usually tends to be pretty self-destructive.
I want, from your
Yes, go ahead.
permission, I want to add something about the Qatarian. We have a problem. I think U.S. And Trump, of course, have a problem with the Qatarian because their financial position in U.S. So we can't say whatever we like to say, but we have to say it, and we have to put it on the table. Qatarian are supporting Hamas. Qatarian supporting terror attacks and the Islamic Brotherhood all over the world, and they are the engine for the terror all over. So we can't take Qatar as a consideration. We can take them as a mediator. We can take them as somebody that can be with us around the table of negotiation. They are part of terror. They are part of financing the terror all over the world. And we have to act in Israel, have to act against Qatar as we are dealing with a terror.
Important point. And so I do want to ask you, we've heard from Qatar now that they are considering retaliation against Israel. So Colonel Assa, is that likely? And what sort of retaliation could we be looking at? And I do also want to ask whether the strikes in Qatar will have any effect on the immediate IDF operation that's set to take place in Gaza City.
I think the last part of the question is more important because this is part of our attack on the Hamas. This is part of the plan. Part of the plan is hitting the head of the political heads of Hamas abroad during our attack in Gaza physically, the battalions in Gaza. So it will not stop. It's just part of it. And as we will see immediately in the Hamas troops, in the Hamas battalions inside Gaza, that now they understand that they have no support, no politically and maybe more diplomatic support from the outside, and they have to deal with the IDF physically without any support at the world, and then we will see their surrender more fast. So if you want to connect anything between them, I think that it's part of it. It's part of our war now in Gaza to put down all the heads of Hamas that's responsible directly and indirectly to the 7th of October, and to seek for any one of them, any place in the world, that Hamas will understand that they are at the end of the road.
And Ambassador, I think I want to ask you one final question. Do you see this strike impacting the ongoing negotiations? Netanyahu is saying it will only help to bring about a deal, but others are more skeptical.
Well, we have to make it very clear that Israel's by far #1 goal from October 8 until today is resurrection or restoration of Israel's posture of deterrence, which was completely demolished on October 7. No country, and certainly no Middle Eastern country, can survive without a very, very robust posture of deterrence. This action in Qatar has been primarily dedicated to continue and restore and bolster our posture of deterrence. There is also impact on the attempt to bring back the hostages, because one of the ways to bring back the hostages is to intensify the pressure on Hamas leaders. On the one hand, we know that Hamas tends to be apocalyptic, but on the other hand, there may be certain non-apocalyptic considerations. And for Hamas to see the fate of the leaders of Hezbollah and the fate of the leaders of the Houthis and the fate of many of their own leaders may, I'm not sure will, but may bring them to reach a constructive resolution of the conflict. In my humble mind, the chance for that is very, very small, because of the nature of the satanic terror enemy that we are facing. We cannot apply to them Israeli values or Western values. They are driven by a fanatic, religious, non-reconcilable ideology. And that ideology mandates them to proceed all the way to the annihilation of what they call the illegitimate Zionist entity, and at the end of the day also bring the infidel West to submission. The assumption that we can negotiate them away from that ideology, unfortunately, is very, very simplistic and almost, I would say, very childish.
I want to add something practical. When we are getting into Gaza and we want to see the hostages getting out, practically we will do some kind of agreement and some kind of negotiation with the people that holding the hostages themselves, and they want to live. This is very simple. Maybe Hamas as an organization wants everybody in Gaza to be suffered and not paying attention to the people. But still, when you are surrounding one group that holding our hostages and you start to negotiate them to their lives, they will raise the white flag and will bring us our hostages. And practically, this will be the hostage negotiation at the end. It's not with the Hamas in general. It will be more specifically with the holders of the hostages at the field.
All right, Colonel Amit, Assa, Ambassador Yoram, Ettinger, thank you both so much for joining us today and for your analysis. And moving on, for more than 2 centuries, Kolel Chabad has been providing food and care to Israel's most vulnerable. Today, it's the country's oldest continuously operating charity. We joined Executive Director Zalman Duchman in Jerusalem to see firsthand how the organization is bringing dignity, joy, and warm meals to thousands every day. Let's take a look.
In the heart of Jerusalem, volunteers and staff with Kolel Chabad deliver not just food, but comfort, dignity, and connection to Israel's elderly population.
Kolel Chabad is the oldest continuously operating charity in Israel, 238 years old. Today, we focus primarily on different ways that we help elderly people with food. Food is the most basic of human needs.
Each day, hot meals are delivered to thousands across the country. Here in Jerusalem, Kolel Chabad works to bring them directly to people's homes and apartments, with special touches as they ensure quality, cultural-sensitive meals.
The food that is served here partially is catered by us, that we prepare it here locally, or part of it comes from that we do in partnership with Leket, that the food comes from hotels, restaurants, caterers around Yerushalayim, around Israel. If you see, it's beautiful brisket, beautiful chicken, beautiful pasta. Our objective is to help every single person the way they need help.
For some, a warm meal is also a lifeline to companionship. Like Yosef, who just turned 90 years old, originally from Moldova, he now lives in Jerusalem and eagerly welcomes the visits.
תודה רבה. כל יום יש אוכל.
Zalman and Yosef share more than a meal. From dancing to singing, Yosef even opened up his past with photographs and old memories of his time in Moldova. For Yosef, the visits also bring meaning and tradition. The 90-year-old is reminded of his Jewish values and traditions as staff helps him wrap tefillin while getting his meal served. Moments like these show that Kolel Chabad's mission goes beyond meals. It's about preserving dignity, Jewish identity, and human connection. For volunteers like Anat Friedman, the work is deeply personal.
My grandmothers and grandfather were Holocaust survivors, and I'm close to this population of elderly people. I know how much they need the smile, the attitude. For some people, it's the only time of the day that they open the door.
Kolel Chabad doesn't just fill stomachs, it builds community. At their soup kitchen at their main facility, elderly people and anyone that needs a meal will gather, share stories, and find friendship. Zalman joined a group of new and old immigrants from the United States to chat over a tasty lunch meal.
The soup kitchens provide another very important aspect, and that is the social aspect, where people get together, they meet identical people, they talk together, they have a friendship.
For many, this community is a lifeline. Anat says even small gestures can make a difference.
When you see a lot of elder people like this every day, it makes you think of life, think of your family, and how important are the connections. And it's so important if somebody has a grandfather, a grandmother, an old aunt, just call them. Call them, talk to them, see if they need a visit.
Kolel Chabad's mission, founded in 1788, remains the same. Help anyone in need, regardless of background, with dignity and with respect.
The most basic of human need is food. More than just bread, but they have meat, they have chicken, they have a nice meal. It is our honor to serve them. It's our honor to serve them with dignity. And that is the most important thing for us.
For Yosef, Anat, and countless others, that care comes wrapped in meals, conversation, tradition, and community.
All right, and that's a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour, broadcasting live from Israel and the heart of the Middle East. We're here every hour on the Hour. I'm Lidar Lazi. Thanks for watching and stay safe.